Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and happy 2019. This is the first cake post of the year. I took a couple of weeks off just to get some TLC in there, but now we will be back to regular uploads. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made this painted leopard print makeup fashion-y type cake, so let's get right into it. I have a 6-inch cake ready to go, iced and covered in fondant. If you need to see how to get to this point, I will link those videos below. I've mixed some ivory food coloring gel together with a little bit of food grade alcohol, and with a fluffy brush, I'm going to start stippling that all over my cake. I'm making sure that I'm not swiping or like dragging the color on there. I want to keep with that stippling motion the entire way around. I know it's a little bit tiring, but it gives you a really nice texture, and you can see some of that white fondant still peeking through. I took more of that ivory food coloring and I only mixed in a little bit of my food grade alcohol so the color would be more potent, and I'm adding some spots all over my cake. Again, just with that stippling motion, you want to make some of them bigger, some of them smaller, different shapes, and make sure you're not putting them too close together because we're still going to add the black on here. The last step is to add the black. I only added a little bit of my food grade alcohol to my food coloring gel, so it was super concentrated, and I'm going to start going around each of my spots in different ways. It really helps if you look up a picture of what leopard print looks like. You want to keep it pretty varied. You don't want too many of the same shapes next to each other, but because this is so like artistically messy, you could say, you can pretty much not mess this up. Any way that you make it, it's going to look good. In between my brown spots, I'm adding a couple just solo spots of black, again mixing it up, making them different shapes, and just sporadically adding them in there. So this is what it looked like all finished. You could definitely mix this up. You could do the base color deeper, add more spots, add less, whatever is your preference. I've also added a 4-inch tier on top. If you need to see how to stack a cake, I will link that video below. I wanted the top tier to look like a makeup bag, kind of like a trendier makeup bag. So to the bottom of that tier, I'm adding a really thin strip of black fondant all the way around, and then just cutting a clean seam at the back. So this was the point of the editing process when I realized that I filmed the next part totally out of frame. So that's super unfortunate, but the only thing I've done here is added a thicker strip of black fondant on the very top edge of my cake, and then with my fondant tool I marked 2 lines going all the way around, one closer to the top and one closer to the bottom. I went back in with my fondant tool and I'm going in the center of that strip all the way around, and this is going to be the track for where my zipper lies. So once I had marked all the way around, I took the back of my fondant tool and I just kept going over that line until the entire thing was indented. I want to make sure there's enough space there that I can fit a strip for my zipper, and it's not going to poke out too much, so you do want to dig in a little bit deeper to make that room. This is what it looked like when it was all finished, and then I'm grabbing my X-Acto knife, and on the front part of the cake I'm going to mark in just a little square, and then I'm going to cut that out. You just want to be careful that you're not cutting through the cake itself. You just want to cut through that strip and then gently peel that piece out. I brushed that indented space with a little bit of water, and then with a long thin strip of white fondant, I'm going to press that in there all the way around. To make it look more like a zipper, I took my X-Acto knife and indented like a zigzag right in the middle, and then added lines on the top and the bottom. It wasn't a dead ringer for a zipper, but it was good enough for me. I added a little oval of white that overlapped just a little bit on where the zipper ended, and then added another little teardrop of fondant overlapping just a smidge on the bottom, and I had punched a hole out of that using a piping tip. And then I just added a tiny little piece of fondant to connect the two pieces. I mixed together some gold luster dust with some food grade alcohol, and then I'm brushing that all over the entire zipper. It's been like a solid year and a half since I've had a stitching tool, so I'm adding in the stitching lines with my X-Acto knife, which is the way more tedious way. So don't be like me, get yourself a stitching tool. I don't know why I don't have one yet. I desperately just need to get one. Moving on to the decorations, I'm starting with the purse. I'm using red. You could use any color. You could really make any purse design that you want. I'm not going to talk you through every single shape I made. I just hope that by looking at it, you can see what I'm doing here. My fondant smoothers were integral to getting the start shape of the purse. It helps you just get some flatter lines versus trying to shape it with your fingers. So I basically just ended up with this shape. I rolled out some more of my red fondant, and then I'm placing my purse on top of that. And using my knife, I'm just cutting around the purse, making sure that my knife is completely flush with the sides so that I'm going to get a really close fit. I used the shape that I was left with as a template to cut out another one, so I had one for each side. Then I just placed that on the front and back of my bag using a little bit of water to hold it in place. To make the straps, I have a really long piece of black fondant, and I'm adding that to either side of my bag and just meeting that strap up in the back. I added some stitching all the way around on those front and back panels as well. I made a little teeny tiny bow out of some black fondant and then stuck that on the front using a little bit of water. To create my makeup pieces, I'm starting out by rolling out some black fondant and cutting out this small rectangle shape. I just want to make sure that it's small enough that it'll fit on the top of my tier. I used my cutter to punch out a couple of circles as well. For the lipstick, I'm rolling out some black into the cylinder shape and then cutting it down to size, and then with my fingers, I'm just blunting down both ends so it'll sit up nicely. For the handle of my brush, I rolled out my black into a snaky shape that's just tapered off at one end. I used some piping tips and circle cutters and cut out a couple different shades of fondant and added it into the center of my larger circles, and then just a couple of the smaller ones into my rectangular shape for little eyeshadows. You can use whatever colors you want, it doesn't really matter. I've got a cylinder of red fondant and I'm cutting one end on a bit of an angle and then reshaping that so that it's like the top of a lipstick. I've added that to the top of my black cylinder with a little bit of water, and then with a strip of gray fondant, I'm wrapping that around where the red meets the black. I took a ball of ivory fondant and pressed it down against my work surface, and I'm just shaping that into the general shape of a fluffy brush and adding in texture using my fondant tool. Just like the lipstick, I'm wrapping around a piece of gray fondant where the brush meets the handle. To finish the bag off, I cut out a piece of black fondant and left it to dry in this U shape. And then once it was firm enough to stand up on its own, I added it to the back of that front panel, just using a little bit of water. Now I'm adding my makeup. I'm holding everything in place with a little bit of piping gel. For the lipstick on the top, you could also add a little piece of dried spaghetti into the bottom and insert it so it stays still. I just stuck mine on with the piping gel and it stayed just fine, but you can have some extra security there if you need it. And this was the final result, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for new videos every week. I will see you in the next one.